to have treated some condition that actually turned out to be pretty life-threatening? Or would they have waited the extra couple of days because they weren't sure how they were going to pay for it? That kind of stuff. I think it's actually an incredibly powerful story that we in this community haven't really learned how to tell because we've been so focused on the kind of money in, income out, poverty alleviation. Okay, I think this is far more nuanced and actually far more real vision of just what financial services mean to every one of us, including poor people. It's not that different. It's how you organize access to basic human needs. So anyway, we keep going here. And then if you kind of take all this universe and you take financial needs and you do all this kind of complex diagramming and matrixing, you come up with some sort of a spectrum of the numbers of lives you might affect with different kinds of financial services, right? If you look at the full range of financial services, and on the left you can see that some basic financial infrastructure followed by payments, might be the kinds of financial services that reach the broadest number of people, all the way over to the right where you have something like insurance, risk mitigation products, where we're not sure yet. We don't actually really know very much about insurance. We don't know what its impact will be. We don't know how many people would find it really useful. But in any case, there's some sort of spectrum here where it's pretty hard to imagine that everyone in the world might not at some point have a need to send some money somewhere or make a payment. Why wouldn't everyone in the world want or need or like to have a safe place to save? Maybe some wouldn't. But then credit. Does everybody in the world really want a loan all the time? I'm not convinced after 30 years in this business that everybody always wants to be indebted all the time. And that seems on the face of it that there's plenty of people who prefer not to be. So anyway, you kind of come up with this notion that there are some services for which there's a lot more demand than other services, okay? This is just sort of building this whole approach. Then if you take sort of this view that there's a lot of demand, and you start talking about what are the most impactful things that one might do in the face of all this demand, it strikes me that savings sort of moves to the top in terms of meeting most of our daily financial needs, more so than a loan, which is so tightly structured, right, and so rigid in the way it can be used. It really seems like having a transaction account or having some sort of savings account really is something that is perhaps the single most powerful, impactful kind of financial services that could be provided to the largest number of people. And as I used in the Mexican example, loans may oftentimes be a really expensive way to accomplish the same purpose that a deposit account would serve. So anyway, here's a thought for you. At the end of the day, when you think of the process of poverty alleviation, what is it all about? How does someone get out of poverty? Well, they get out of poverty through asset building, right? I mean, they get out of poverty because they're able to set aside something, no matter how tiny, every day, and build an asset, buy an animal, build a room. The process of getting out of poverty is actually ending up with more somehow, not simply generating more income, but actually ending up in a better place in life. The very essence of that process is a saving process in the small s sense of the word saving, right? You're setting aside, you're able to build your family's equity base. You build it into old age, you build it for your kids, you build it for successive generations. But it really seems like it's the process of saving that lies at the very heart of any argument or any position you would want to take around poverty alleviation. I'm not sure how you alleviate poverty if people aren't able to engage in that most fundamental process of setting aside bits of something for a better life later. So, why should we assume that the poor prefer to build their wealth through loans? Why should we make that assumption? I don't know. I think it's interesting to at least question whether that's indeed how the poor would prefer to proceed in life, or whether